Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Lebo from GCTV, and today I'm here with four members of the Connecticut chapter of the Profound Autism Alliance. Thank you for coming in today.
Glad to be here.
Yes,
Thank you for having us.
And can I have you introduce yourselves?
I'm Bill Pilkington, and I am the father of Billy Pilkington.
I'm Karen Carney. I'm the mother of Billy Pilkington and the wife of Bill Pilkington. He would not change his name when we got him.
I'm David Arizini. I'm the father of Carl Arizini and Lynn's husband.
and I'm Lynn Arizini, and my son Carl Arizini, who lives in New Haven with lots of supports, and he has profound autism.
And what are your roles in the chapter of Profound Autism?
We're on leadership. So Adrian Benjamin is our leader, and we have about 10 members in our group, and we're a fairly new group. We've only been around for probably less than a year.
Okay, and what does the Profound Autism Alliance do as an organization?
Well, this year we had quite a few successes. We're trying to, our main thing is we're trying to get staffing levels to improve because there's a staffing crisis in Connecticut and in the country for people like our children. We want to get staff training, their pay and their benefits, and we want to push for funding for people with IDD, which is intellectual and developmental disabilities, and autism, which is our two sons have, and everyone in our group has a child, an adult child with that designation. So
We need to really make sure that people understand profound autism. It's not in the DSM. In the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Psychiatric Disorders, it's autism spectrum. So they took away Asperger's. There's no designation for where your child might fall and what specific kinds of symptoms they may have. So it gets very confusing. And so we are also advocating for a designation of profound autism because there's a range with that as well. Mm-hmm. But right now, it seems that everybody's kind of lumped together. But with profound autism, our son, I'll give you an example, he has intellectual disability and autism, and part of that is a language disorder. But if you look at him, there's a picture on the table, he looks perfectly normal, and that's what people expect of him. So it's really important that we educate the community, and also the same thing with Carl. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, there's a lot of cluster symptoms with
comorbidities. Yeah,
right. So profound autism is a much more complicated kind of condition to address because it hasn't been studied very well.
Is there a clinical definition for profound autism, or it's just a...
Not officially.
We're working on that nationally. And in our little group, what we did get, which is, I think, pretty amazing, is the governor, we have a copy of the official proclamation, Profound Autism Day. He designated St. Patrick's Day, interestingly enough, coincidence, I'm sure, as Profound Autism Day in Connecticut. So we had Lieutenant Governor Bisowitz, call a press conference for us. And we were up at Hartford, and I think I sent you some of those pictures of that. And that was a pretty amazing thing. And then you asked what else. We also got a law passed unanimously. And to get any law passed unanimously anywhere is pretty amazing. And we work lobbying with legislators and senators. And, you know, there's a lot of behind the scenes work to get this to happen. But the things I mentioned earlier and what Karen mentioned are the things that we're trying to, achieve with this law.
And do you know when the Connecticut chapter was started?
I know it's been under a year. The national one has been longer, but it's rather new too. Mm-hmm. So this whole thing is a movement that's really starting. And in Connecticut, we really gained steam with passing 7108 and getting a proclamation Right, the press conference. That was all within a span of time, from the beginning of the year until, June, the end of the session. So,
Going into House Bill 7108, I initially met you at the end of the state congressional session, open forum hosted by Senator Cohen, and the two representatives are, the names are escaping.
Moira Ratter,
Moira.
and Robin Comey.
Thank you. Yeah. And where you thank them for their work and working with you to get the bill passed or to the Senate. Can you tell us about the process?
Well, it wasn't just me, of course. Adrian Benjamin and Rick Rothstein and others, like I said, there's like about 10 of us. We all lobbied our own senators and our own legislators. And I know that Senator Gilchrist was very active in this. And I asked Senator Cohen, and she's actually the one that went up to the governor and asked for the proclamation. But she's by no means the only person. I mean, it's such an extraordinary team effort. So it's a team effort for all of us. And then we reach out to all the people we know in our lives that have children with profound autism. And then we just educate, whether it's the public, whether it's our friends, whether it's the legislators and the governor too. So it's kind of like all systems go,
Like Margaret Mead said,
Yeah.
never doubt that a small group of dedicated people or something like that.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
yeah,
Yeah. So
create amazing change. So,
Yeah.
wow.
and what fuels it is the intense love we have for our children, and knowing their potential and knowing what they could do and wanting them to be safe and,
Absolutely.
And what is the bill's provisions? What's the, I guess, the actions or the effects of the bill?
Okay. Well, as I said, the staffing shortage, we definitely need to increase that. We need to improve training, pay and benefits. It's also for abuse and neglect. The process has been totally not transparent. So we want it to have the process be more transparent, have more outside people looking into things. So that was a big one. And then another big one is we want a count of DDS. DDS is the Department of Developmental Services. People knew it in the past as DMR, but we've updated it to have a better name. So anyway, DDS doesn't at this point have a real count of how many people there are with autism, let alone how many there are with profound autism. So what we want to do is have a count, and then we want programs and staffing aligned with that amount of people that have autism, and then within this huge spectrum to fit the needs of each individual within this. So that's the bill covered a real lot, I think. It was an amazing amount, and it just goes to show with the unanimous, support that this is a nonpartisan issue. That it doesn't matter what party you are, what race, what religion, what anything. Autism doesn't play favorites. It hits where it hits, and it's just very difficult for people to navigate. We've been navigating this through our child's life in school, which is very complex, and you have good years and you have bad years, and people often think when their kid turns 22, oh, now we've got the state and the federal government are going to take care of our kids, and all this stuff is not an entitlement. So we really have to fight, and the way that Dave and I realized, and I'm sure you did too, Karen and Bill, is that you have to go political. And didn't think I was going to we're both retired music teachers. We didn't really think we were going to go delve into politics to this extent, but.
Right. And none of us on this panel are getting any younger, and we lose sleep at night worrying about what's going to happen to our children when we're not here. And our son is not in any kind of supervised living situation. There's nothing that we found that is really appropriate for him, which is, another reason why we are getting so political about this. It's not, there are some wonderful programs, and if you fit into that program and the staffing is trained for them, then there are some people that have done very well living independently with some supervision. And our children need a lot more supervision. They need a lot more guidance throughout their day. So that makes it quite different. And the other thing that makes profound is some self-injurious behaviors. So when our son gets overwhelmed, he starts biting his fingers to the point where they bleed. And he'll pick at his skin. He had a wound that was on his abdomen just from picking and anxious picking, and it became infected, and it was terrifying. I was afraid it was going to turn into cellulitis and heaven knows what. So there are lots of very peculiar, I'll say, behaviors that they exhibit. And then sometimes when they get overwhelmed, especially, say for our son, if he feels crowded or somebody is too close to him, then he'll push. And then, that gets interpreted as aggression, and that's been a problem. And when he was in kindergarten, he had not been diagnosed yet. But the second day of school, I got a call from the school that he pushed somebody in the bus. And I put him on the bus. He was sitting right in front, right near the bus driver. But then another child came in and sat next to him, and he got nervous, but he could not express himself very well at all at that point. He had very little language. And so he pushed. And of course, that's not appropriate. And he got in trouble for that. And that happened for years and years and years until we finally got a diagnosis of something. And we had to get genetic testing in order to prove to the school system that this was not just a behavior problem or a psychiatric problem. This was something that he had a blueprint for having all the issues that he has. It was pretty amazing. Of the people that they have discovered who have this particular type of genetic composition, he fit the mold perfectly. It's pretty amazing.
The other thing is the behaviors we had consulting weekly, years, realized that Billy's personal space is about 5 feet. So that if anybody was within that 5 feet and he's getting anxious, and even if they move their hand, he said, "You hit me," and you're not even within, because for him, that was his personal space. And he also has a delay in hearing and processing it.
Processing language.
So so in 1 year in school, the teacher just spoke. Well, by the time he understood the first sentence, she's on the second paragraph. And he would get in trouble because he had no idea what she was saying. So their answer was they put him in the back of the room, put a divider so that the other kids couldn't see him and he could only see the teacher.
Because they thought he was being disruptive.
And that's illegal.
And the principal of that school, that was an elementary school, and again, this is before we had a diagnosis, said, he's the worst kid in the school. He's going to lower our test scores. That was said at a PPT. They actually said. And we have witness to that. But, jaws dropped around the table when he said that. And he was just furious with Billy because they were really looking at it as a deliberate behavioral problem and not that he had a neurological disability.
Was this before the understanding of autism became
They
more
were
known?
understanding autism, but not the profound type that we
And as you said earlier, when you look at our sons, they're actually, I think, very handsome young men, and it doesn't appear Carl's situation is that most of the time he is not, having self-injurious behaviors, but when he is so attuned to people's emotional, state. Yes, and when he thinks a baby is upset, I think he thinks that crying means they're going to die or something horrible is going to happen. So he will go over to the baby, all 6'4" of him, and try to stop the baby from crying. And that's what actually got us our funding, because he did that in a restaurant a long time ago with Chapel Haven. And the father was going to call the police. And when that happened, then, Department of Developmental Services said, okay, you're getting funding. So we got complete funding, and we've worked so hard to have home health aides in his home, in his apartment. We have Marrakesh supporting community supports. We have day programs. He's an artisan at East Street Arts. I mean, so many things. And yet I wrote about something in one of an event I do a lot of testifying up in Hartford. So I'm going to read what I said in this testimony. Despite our autistic son's ability, he is no longer safe without 24/7 supervision. Currently, he has no staff at night. In September, this was last September, Carl left his apartment in the middle of the night because a neighbor's baby was crying. To stop this crying, he banged down the window, broke it, and cut himself. The next morning, he didn't call us. The next morning, his staff discovered a bloody trail, bloody clothes, and luckily, Carl's injury to his thumb was minor. But the solution, as I said, is to provide nonprofits with a living wage. And, Dave can tell you how often we get the call that staff is not there for him.
Well, actually, all I have to do is just to see the number. And I'm a little nervous because I don't know whether it's a good thing. Could very well be a good thing, or maybe it's not so good. So, and maybe at least half the time we have to deal with an issue and drive into New Haven. My daughter also needs to drive into New Haven occasionally. And, when we don't have the supports, it makes it really difficult for us. We really can't plan anything in our retirement. It is difficult, let's put it that way.
We turned our 40th wedding anniversary, and I cannot believe it. David and I can't even sit down at the table and say, let's go to New Hampshire, let's do this trip, because literally in the middle of it, you can get a call, and it's not always the disaster that this was, but it's, you're constantly, Dave's favorite expression is, when's the next shoe going to drop?
Well, you're kind of on edge because you never know what's going to happen later today, for example. I don't know. So it does make it very challenging, for sure. Yeah.
And we don't have the services that they do. It's just us. Yeah. And he has a 3-day-a-week program that runs for several hours. But, even that, sometimes we get called to pick him up because he's become dysregulated. So we're on call all the time.
Yeah.
And we were given a gift certificate to a beautiful place where we could stay overnight and have a lovely dinner. And that was a year and a half ago. We haven't been able to go.
I don't even know if it's still open.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we don't do much.
right?
I get
And in the midst of it, instead of doing what you're talking about, we're doing this.
Right.
Which I'm passionate about. It's important work, but it shouldn't be what we're spending all of and you are still working.
Yeah, when I realize every day that I've taken off this year so far has been for advocacy. I've not taken a single day off just to have a day off.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy, and I'm aware of that, but that's our life right now. So do what we have to do.
Ideally, what type of services do you want? What do you want the state to kind of help with? What are your, I guess what I'm getting to say is ultimate goal?
Well, we have something in the works which I think could be very, very helpful for Carl, and I think it could be helpful for Billy if you get your funding, which you definitely deserve. But there's something that DDS is doing now called supportive housing. So in Westville, where Carl lives now, they're building a brand new apartment complex, 60 units. And a number of those units are going to be designated for people with his kind of disabilities or other kind of disabilities. One unit will have an agency. In this case, it will be Mid-State ARC. They will have a 24/7 presence. The apartments are going to be smart apartments. So in other words, they will be almost like an air traffic control of the different units. And besides that, Carl will keep all the funding he has so he doesn't have to get rid of Marrakesh or Chapel Haven or any of the other things that we've pieced together like a patchwork quilt, you know? So in that case, we can just say, we don't have to go and supervise him taking his meds or doing this all the way from Guilford to Westville. We can actually have Mid-State ARC apartment guys go in there and just say, Carl, how you doing? You okay? Your staff can't come tonight. So I think we're just waiting for that to happen. We're praying that that's a good solution. So something like that. Group homes need a lot more reliable staff. Staff, we had a staff once that I said, don't you want to work overtime? She goes, yeah, I would work overtime with Carl, but I'm on Section 8. And if I work overtime, I'll lose my apartment.
Yeah.
And these workers are on Husky, insurance, and they're doing really important and very difficult work. So basically, there was a bill about indexing nonprofits, having a COLA because they haven't had a raise since the 80s. So that's something we're fighting for. I mean, there's just so much to be done.
And our son has expressed a desire to have an apartment with a friend who also has intellectual disabilities. But we know unless there is 24-hour supervision for him, he's incapable of living independently that way. We support him, but he...
And of the places we know who are similar, which are similar to that, there are times when the person who's supposed to come on for the night doesn't show up.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
It's not reliable. It's and that is too risky for our situation. But we were told that there are beds in some of the group homes, but they cannot staff correctly, safely enough to add people to the home. So that was very disheartening to hear. Then they can't find staff who will accept a job for what they had been paying. And, you can't live off of the wage that they were getting. So that means you need another job and you're already exhausted. This is exhausting work, very exhausting. And to think that these folks have to take care of our kids and then go to another job, and some of them have children of their own, and it's too much to ask.
And if they have an opportunity to better themselves,
they leave.
They'll leave. Not because they don't care about our adult children. It's because they need to make a living wage,
Right.
which is so crucial.
And there's no mandate to program our kids.
That's what I mean, an entitlement. Yep.
Yeah, there's no mandate. So for a long time, Billy, and I know many other kids who, for one reason or another, they weren't able to get a day program. Again, because of staffing issues, there were enough staff. And they languished at home for months and months and months. And then something came up. I know of one young lady right now. She was so excited about the placement. It was perfect for her. She loves to work with children. She'd be working with children. And they hired her for per diem. She hasn't worked for the last few weeks because it's summertime and a lot of kids are taking vacations with their families. And so they didn't need her. So she's had nothing to do for most of the summer. And that's not healthy. Our kids need structure. They need predictability. They need the same staff to get to know them. But anyway, there are lots of challenges. Taking care of our kids is not an easy thing to do. We appreciate that. And we would like the people who are willing and wanting to do that to be compensated fairly.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely agree, and I'm learning quite a bit myself during this whole speech and finding myself absolutely agreeing with all of your points of proper staffing, living wages for those staffing, and even making it a mandate and like guarantee help. Guarantee help. I'm learning quite a bit from all four of you.
Thank you.
Nobody can support themselves on minimum wage.
No.
Minimum wage is like for high school students or maybe retired people who have pensions and everything else. But expect people to do it. And even when people say, oh, they're raising the minimum wage, it's going to cost more. All of them I've said, could you live on that? And then they're quiet.
Mm-hmm. You already got into it a little bit, but what are some future plans, future work for the Alliance?
Well, it's pretty much what we've been saying. We want, to have proper staff. We want them trained. And I've always said in my testimonies, I want the staff to have a career path. I think the whole profession has to be looked at differently. This is not just something you do, along with many other jobs. This is a career. And we just got word today that the person who's right now with our son, taking him to his swimming and different things he's doing today, he's leaving because he got a promotion. I mean, this is a constant thing too. And what do you say to the person like, I'm really happy for you? It's like when he says that, you're like, oh no. And if Carl gets attached, then Carl gets the self-injurious. He bangs his head and bangs his chest and, things like that. And it can be very dangerous and scary. So that is so important, is a career path, insurance, just looking at this as a profession that we need. We need more funding. Karen and Bill should not have to be at this age taking care of their son in their home. And it's not good for Billy. It's not what Billy or Carl want. Carl's like, I'm coming home. The last, 3 or 4 months, he's been home on the weekends because we can't get staffing.
Yeah. And
he doesn't want, he always says, I live in my own apartment. And he just emphasizes that, And also, we haven't talked about the damage the pandemic did. Carl was a whole different person pre-pandemic. He had to come home for 4 months. He went online for everything. And he started to really do well online and even talk more and everything because he was probably less anxious because it was, talk about personal space, they were in another town or something. And then when he came back to doing personal stuff, it was very hard for him. So, that's another angle that we didn't talk about, is how the pandemic really affected our guys. And we're taking the lead from the national. Judith Ortiz is pretty amazing leader of the Profound Autism nationally. And there was a summit in April. I think, was that the first or second?
I didn't go.
Yeah, I didn't either. But they're having another one in Boston. So we're definitely want to attend that. And actually our group we planned last night on our Zoom call, we're going to meet at the leader's house in September and talk about what we should do, what our goals are going to be.
In our particular chapter, the emphasis is advocacy and education, community education. Because that's our focus.
Yep.
And where can people get more information on the Profound Autism Alliance, or if they wanted to join themselves?
We have a brand new Facebook page, and I sent you a lot of different things from that page so they can look up the Connecticut Profound Alliance on Facebook. And I think there's a way that you
on our buttons.
Yes, here's our buttons. Yep. And here's our ta-da.
And if people wanted to help, monetary donations or to help let's say, talk to their representative or senator?
I would say that's number one, is to talk to your representative and anyone who has a child on the spectrum, especially in this area of profound autism. Get to know your legislators personally. Invite them to your home. When Dave and I started this, we were teachers in Greenwich and in Coscob. We invited all of our legislators and about 40 people into our small little home there. And actually, Senator Blumenthal was supposed to come, and he had to cancel the last minute. But they all spoke to the legislators about what was going on and in their lives. And it, oh my gosh, it just started our journey. We really got to know this wonderful legislator, and he really helped us get Carl into the community.
It was amazing when we went to budget hearings and about the legislation on both political sides who have siblings or children who are on the autism. And so they were very much aware of the deficits of care that's available and supports available. And that's why I think it was unanimous. No one voted against it because they just knew it was past time.
And the other thing we have to do is, even though they vote for it unanimously, we have to hold their feet to the fire. And if anything didn't have a fiscal note, which means money, we really have to make sure, like with this study, we have to make sure it happens. So the thing is, once you start doing this political work, you can't say, oh, we're done. You know, we did the thing we were supposed to. You're never done. You constantly got to make sure that what you put into motion happens, and you have to be up there a lot. And you have to go to these meetings where I met you, Matt. You know, it's really important to go to these community meetings and to speak up, because not only do my legislators hear our message, but the people in the audience hear it. And the one that we went to together in Brantford, I was really thrilled at how the people were responding positively to this whole thing.
I particularly remember the woman sitting next to you talking about her own experience with both of her kids as well.
Yeah. Like Bill said, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
And one of the things the legislators who are voting for all this said, we can vote an amount of money, but then the budget committee shortens it. That's the other line, is that's the committee that's got to be held to the fire to fund everything adequately.
Right. First, it starts out with Human Services Committee, then Appropriations, which is really important. They all went unanimous for the bill. So that's how come. Then you got to get the bill raised. So through our work, through over the years since 2014, I've gotten to know the leadership. It's really important to get to know the leadership. So you have to go to the minority leader, the majority leader, and make sure they call the bill. Because if they don't call the bill, they're not going to vote for the bill. Right. And then when it's called, we usually find that out in the last minute. Okay, who can go to Hartford? And when we were living in Greenwich, that was like a real big deal, because it's like, okay, let's see, traffic,
With everything on hold.
Yes, everything is on hold. Take that personal day in the last minute, we were in a school system that wasn't easy. So,
Advantage of living in Wayfield.
Yes, you are lucky. And Guilford is a lot closer than it used to be for us. So
I'd like to put a plug in for Wethersfield. They have been wonderful. The horror stories that I mentioned were not in that town. We moved.
Yeah.
And we've been very blessed with Amy Moore and Carrie Wood, especially, have been very responsive.
And Matt Lesser.
And Matt.
Oh,
yeah.
He's
Matt Lesser.
Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah. There are many wonderful people.
And even the aides, especially the aides, Senator Cohen's aide, Sue Nasson, is just amazing, and so responsive. I told her we were going to be on this today, and she emailed me right back and said, I'm so excited, and I can't wait to see the link. So when you get into this work, you really get to know, or I think it's smart to get to know, the senator and the legislators' aides, because, they can really help a lot. So it's just, what do they call that? Full press? Full court press? Is that? I'm not very athletic, but that's kind of what we do.
Does anyone have any final remarks?
I would just like to say it's so important for the public to know the struggles that families go through, and not just with special needs, in many other areas, and that society in general has the final say as to whether all this is going to happen, I think.
All right. I want to thank all of you for coming in and speaking with me today. I've definitely learned something, and I hope that everyone who is watching learned something and got a fire lit under them to help out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. It was a pleasure.
Hospitality. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guilford.
Yes. Our town. We love it.